You're listening to Kate Palmer from sparkletart.com, and today I'm going to create a Copic stendoodled feather card. Never heard of stendoodling? Well, it is an awesome technique that uses your stencils to create an image and the pattern for it. Now, this was originally an idea from Michael Trent, and I've got his blog address up on my screen now. Begin with a nice bold stencil, just something with an outline. Use your 0.5 Copic multiliner to draw around the stencil and create your initial image. Once the initial outline is finished, swap to a stencil with a little bit of pattern but not anything small, and your 0.3 Copic multiliner. Use this second stencil to separate your image into sections. I've then swapped to the smallest Copic multiliner I've got, which is 0.05, and I'm going to use every small stencil in my arsenal to create patterns within each section. Now, I won't show you this because it took me about 40 minutes between picking the stencils and drawing the little patterns, but I'm using a different stencil pattern for almost each section, and just grab whatever you can. If you don't have small stencils, you can just freehand and doodle some little sections and shapes and patterns in here. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Next step is just like colouring in a colouring book image. I'm going to choose 2 colours per section so it doesn't get too busy, but there's no particular special Copic colouring technique. There's such small areas, all you really need to do is grab your marker and colour an area until you can't see any streaks. If one of the colours looks a bit or you'd like to change your mind, just colour over the top with a different Copic marker. They're pretty good this way, you can sort of chop and change a bit. For each section, I've tried to choose different colours so that there's not sort of 2 same colour pinks sitting next to each other. Gives the image a little bit more definition. But apart from that, all you need to do is colour inside the lines, do a neat job, and make sure you have as few streaky bits as possible. Now, I've sped this section of the clip up as much as I can because when you're watching someone just colour with no particular technique and nothing to teach you other than colouring in, it's not very exciting. Now for the bits that finish off your project to make it look a little special. I'm starting with the Copic marker N3, and I'm drawing a really fine line around one side and sort of the bottom edge of each of those feather sections. And this is going to be the basis for my shadow. I'm now swapping to N1, and I'm just going over the N3 to soften it a little and adding it in the same places, but taking it out about twice as far. Now at this point I'm colouring around almost the whole of one side of the feather, just to sort of give it that little bit of extra shadow. And it's really simple to do, and it's such a lovely soft colour, you can practically not go wrong with this. I'm going to swap back to N3 to add my final layer of shadow, and this just darkens it a little and adds that final touch. Now I'm being quite precise here. I'm adding it in a very fine line just to the underside of each of those feather segments. Now just adding that simple shadow line to one side makes that feather really pop off the page. The colours are bright, but without that shadow line it just looks flat. That little tiny bit of shadow makes it look like it's coming out of the page towards you and makes it that much more interesting. Didn't take very long, wasn't very complicated or tricky, but you can see the effect that it's had on your image. So well worth taking the extra time to do this. Now I'm ready to make this into a card. Now, because my feather's so bright, my background needs to match it. I'm going to use some fat roll washi tape from Hazel and Ruby, and this one's called Colorblock Quotes. I'm cutting it into little panels and sticking these panels all around the edge of my card, making sure that I've got at least some of the colours that I've used in my feather. I'm then just going to trim off all the little excess pieces, which will leave me with a beautiful colourful border. It's so simple. I often look for ways to use things I already have. I thought this was a particularly good idea. It turns out super cute. So I'm just going to layer my Copic coloured feather right over the top of my background that I've made with the washi. And you can see it's a lovely fine edge that just gives something a little bit different, but really looks like it matches that feather. just because all of those different panels are a little bit unique, it really goes very well. I've used one of the little panels that says, if you want to be happy, be. I've mounted it on some cardstock, so it's got a little bit more thickness to it, and edged it in black. You can see I've just put 3 small pieces of twine down one side, just to sort of draw your eye down to that quote, and it's finished. It's super simple, but it's really effective. And the colors from that Doodled feather, it's just so pretty to look at. It really is. So I hope you have enjoyed this idea. Thank you very much, Michael Trent, for the original doodling suggestion. Really fantastic idea, Michael. I really love doing this. And it's so simple, so easy. You could do a whole bunch of these doodled designs in front of the television and use these instead of doodling or buying a colouring book. Just sort of make your own, and it's quite versatile. You could use them on almost anything. Now, it doesn't have to be Copic markers that you colour them in with. You could use your distress markers, pencils, watercolours, anything you like. It's such a versatile technique. And again, art journaling, cards, scrapbooking, do it in your planners. It's so versatile. It's just brilliant. So I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I did, and that it gives you a few more ideas about using stencils and ways to incorporate doodling into your projects when you're a beginner and you're not sure what to doodle. So have a great day. I'll be back soon with more ideas. Bye.